Hello guys, and today we are ranking the Kirby games. I'd love to say all the Kirby games, but as you can see here, I have not played all the Kirby games. In fact, there's a lot of Kirby games I haven't played, and the reason being has a lot to do with my relationship with Nintendo as of late, because Nintendo pisses me off, and yeah, because of that I haven't really bought any Nintendo games, like brand new Nintendo games or new releases since, well, since Kirby Triple Deluxe. This was the last Nintendo, like this is the last time I ever bought a brand new Nintendo game. So yeah, that's why it's on there. So everything here is a game I haven't played, with the exception of Kirby Superstar and Superstar Ultra. I put those two there because I've basically taken the games out separately, and Revenge of the King for Ultra. I haven't bothered with Nightmare or any of that, because that's also in Nightmare in Dreamland, so I'm not going to mention any of that, or any of the mini games or anything like that. Like Gourmet Miss is probably the exception. I'm not going to mention any of those, because I just think we'll be here all day, and yeah, I basically just want to talk about the proper full games. And I feel that Superstar, because it's like got like, as I say, it's got 6 full games in it at the very least. I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna go with that. But yes, so as you see, I have different tiers here. I only have 4 tiers for everything else. I mean, Kirby is a series that for the most part has been very consistent, so I don't really need to have too many really low tiers for Kirby, because I actually like Kirby quite a bit. I actually do. It's probably it is my favourite platformer franchise out there, just simply because it's easy. I know that sounds crazy, but it is. That's the reason why I like it, because it's easy, and I suck at platformers. So a series that's easy is a series I'm going to enjoy more than a series that's stupidly difficult. So yeah, I just wanted to make that disclaimer first, that I haven't played everything. And Tilt and Tumble, obviously, like, you know, I never played that game, because Tilt and Tumble, like, it came out in North America, didn't it? And never came out over here. And, you know, like, there's just no way for me to play it, so yeah. But anyways, we're going to talk about each and every single Kirby game and rank them. So, like I say, the rankings, even though I say it sucks, I don't mean the game sucks, I mean that it sucks as in it's really good, because it sucks. And Kirby is supposed to suck. It's the only franchise that is meant to suck. I should also mention, I didn't play Epic Yarn or Extra Epic Yarn. I was considering picking up Extra Epic Yarn at one point, but I just never got around to it. And yeah, I just never really got the urge to do so. None of them are made, like, they're not HAL games, they're made by someone else. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. But anyways, let's get straight to it, because we have to talk about the very first Kirby game, which is Kirby's Dreamland. Now, this is a Game Boy regular, like vanilla Game Boy release, so Kirby debuted on the Game Boy of all things, which is funny because the second game, Kirby's Adventure, came out on the NES. So it's kind of weird how Kirby got a Game Boy game first and then an NES game. That's the weirdest part of this franchise. Like, you'd think that it would get an NES game first and then the Game Boy game afterwards, but no, it's the other way around. How that works, I have no idea. You'd think that Kirby would debut on like SNES, like in terms of home consoles, but it didn't. It debuted on NES. Like, you'd think that Kirby's Adventure would just be on the Game Boy. I mean, why not? Like, why they released Kirby's Adventure on the NES, I have no idea. Like, they might as well have just released it on Game Boy as a follow-up to Dreamland, and just, like, I don't know. I guess they wanted colour. I guess that might be why, but I still don't get it. But either way, Kirby's Dreamland, it's the very first game, and it shows. There's no copy abilities in this game. All you can do is suck up enemies and spit them back out. And that kind of makes the game kind of tricky, and a bit more challenging than most Kirby games, because you can't rely on using powers to win. You actually have to learn the boss's patterns, and like, you have to like take advantage of their cow windows whenever they leave you a star to spit at them. And yeah, that means that the bosses are actually kind of challenging, and they take a lot longer to kill in this game. And there's also an extra mode which is also quite challenging as well. If you're looking for a challenge, this is one of the better Kirby games to go for, even though Kirby isn't really known for being a series that is, like, that exists to challenge people. This is probably one of the more challenging games if you want to play a Kirby platformer. But it's not too hard to the point that it's, like, I don't know, like, insanely difficult like a lot of platformers are, you know? It's not really a super hard platformer that no one can pick up and play. I managed to beat it, so you can too. But it does have an extra mode, so there is some content there if you want to actually do the extra mode, and they add some different enemies and stuff, and yeah, it's a lot tougher as well, so there's that. But as far as Kirby games go, this one is kind of, as I say, it's primitive, and it doesn't really, like, it's not really hard to see how this is the first Kirby game. I mean, Kirby is white at this point, they didn't even make him pink, but yeah, this is where it all started, so really, I'm just going to put it in it sucks. Not because it's a bad game, but because it's just, it sucks, but just not enough. You can suck enemies, yes, but there's nothing particularly special about sucking an enemy. You just spit them out. Or you can swallow, but there's no point in swallowing enemies in this game. You can swallow them, but it's pointless. Unless you just want to get rid of them. And yeah, that's the thing, like, you just suck them up and spit them out, that's the game. And pretty much the whole game, really. But it works, it's still an enjoyable game even then. I mean, the limitation actually kind of makes it more challenging, like I said. But it depends on what you're looking for in a video game. Do you want challenge, or do you want to have lots of fun experimental stuff? In which case, you're probably going to want to play Kirby's Adventure over Kirby's Dreamland, because Kirby's Adventure was the game that introduced copy abilities to the series. And yeah, I mean, Kirby's Adventure is a huge game by comparison. Kirby's Dreamland only had like 5 levels, so, like, if I recall. Like, you had the first level, then you had like which was the Green Greaves, and you had Castle Lilolo, then you had the the Float Islands, the cloudy area, and then you had the castle. That was it. And yeah, it's a very short game, whereas Kirby's Adventure is actually a lot longer, and I think that's why they decided to release this game on NES, just simply because they probably couldn't fit it on the Game Boy cartridge, and they just wanted to make a much bigger game out of it. As I say, Kirby's Adventure, I haven't actually played much of this. Most of my experience playing it is in the remake, Nightmare in Dreamland, but I have played a bit of it, and yeah, as I say, it's like Dreamland, but with copy abilities and a lot longer. It's got some mini games, like you can do a crane mini game, and as I say, like, it's an NES game, and for an NES game, I would say this is definitely, probably, in my opinion, the best game on the NES. I actually mean that, because I'm not the biggest NES guy. I'm gonna be honest with you folks. I never grew up with it, and honestly, like, in terms of games from that time period, I much prefer PC Engine over NES from what I've played. Just simply because of personal preference, but like, Kirby's Adventure is probably the best game I have ever played that was released on NES. Like, it definitely, like, and I played the NES version of Kirby's Adventure on the Virtual Console, but I had Nightmare in Dreamland beforehand, so I was already familiar with the game. But so it's really hard to, I mean, ranking them is just going to be, like, kind of weird, because they're basically going to be in the same place. I mean, it's the same game, pretty much. I don't know why I need to, like, rank Kirby's Adventure, like, and Nightmare in Dreamland differently. I mean, they are very much, as I say, the same game. But, yeah, this for an NES game, it's pretty damn good. I will definitely say that. But it's basically just bog standard Kirby. There's nothing, aside from the copy abilities, there's nothing really new about it, for the most part. But it's still, because of the copy abilities, it's a huge improvement over Dreamland. It's like a much bigger game. Honestly, like, I would definitely say it is better than Dreamland in every single way. But I still point out it sucks, just simply because Not because it's a bad game. No, don't get me wrong. It's a Kirby game. It's supposed to suck, and it sucks. It does. That's a fact because Kirby sucks all the time. That's how he kills his enemies. But the reason why only playing it sucks and not anything higher is just simply because there's better Kirby games out there. But it's still a good Kirby game, and I do think that it's better than Dreamland. I will say that. Kirby's Pinball Land. This game is kind of it's a pinball game. You know, if you like pinball, you'll probably like it. But honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of this game. I mean, it's okay, but it's not really in this category. But it's definitely not in this category. And it's definitely not as good as Dreamland. I mean, I personally think that as a pinball game, it's not the most interesting. I think there's better out there, but you know, I'd much rather play like Alien Crush or like Pokemon Pinball than this. But at the same time, I don't really think that this is a terrible game. It's alright. It just could have been so much better, but regardless, I would probably say that this gets on It Sucks. Because, well, it does, but it doesn't. It's not bad, but it still sucks. But then again, you don't suck, you just hit things. I mean, I should put it in here, but I'm not going to be cruel. I do think that it deserves to be on It Sucks tier, just simply because it's still a game that you can enjoy. But ultimately, as I say, like, it's not a game that I would say is like the pinnacle of It Sucks. Speaking of which, next we have Kirby's Block Ball. It's basically Breakout, but with Kirby. I think this game's worse than Pinball Land, but I don't know. Like I say, I'm not going to say it's bad, it's Breakout. If you want to play Breakout, this is a way to play it. I mean, you could say Pinball as well, but I'd say Pinball Land does something a little bit more interesting, because at least it has the bosses, which do stand out. So it does have some interesting things. I feel Block Ball's just basically just Breakout, and yeah, because of that, I'd put it below Pinball Land. Kirby Star Tracker, this is actually a pretty fun game. This is actually one of the more interesting Kirby games, because it's a puzzle game, but it's actually a pretty good one because of how they actually utilized the blocks in the actual puzzle. Because, like, obviously there's two puzzle games for Kirby. You've got Kirby Star Tracker and you've got Kirby's Ghost Trap, which is Avalanche in the US. Kirby's Ghost Trap is basically Puyo Puyo, that's what it is. Whereas Star Stacker is its own thing, and I kind of respect the fact that it's its own thing. And the thing that's interesting about Star Stacker is there's so many ways to win. You can get combos by chaining multiple of the same, like multiple enemy combinations, like you match up two people, then eventually they fall down, match up another one, then you can get combos from that which can generate stars, which can essentially increase, decrease the amount of stars that you need to get to progress. And you can also just get rid of the blocks, which will also decrease the number of stuff that you need to get. And there's just so many ways you can make combos in this game. It's actually a really solid game. It actually really is. I would put it above Pinball Land. Obviously, I would still put Dreamland higher, but I would put Star Stacker here. I think this is still a very solid game. I don't think it gets anything higher. I mean, obviously, it's a puzzle game, so, you know, it's not really what I look for in a Kirby game. It's okay, I guess, but yeah, it's still really fun for what it is, and I think it deserves to be on It Sucks and not on this. Kirby's Dreamland 2, well, this is a game that I actually had to just recently play. Yeah, I actually played this game not long ago, and I always wanted to play this game because it's one of the few Kirby games that I never got around to, but I finally got around to playing it. And yeah, this is an interesting Kirby game, because this was I mean, so far you've had Kirby's Dreamland, Kirby's Adventure. This is kind of the next real proper Kirby game after that. And this Kirby game is kind of the beginning of the Shimamura saga, and it shows. It's the beginning of a new saga for Kirby, And in some ways, I will definitely say it is a step down from Kirby's Adventure. Like, I would definitely say that this game has some problems. The biggest problem being the balancing of the abilities, because, like, the thing about Kirby's Dreamland 2 is it gives you these little pals that you can actually play as, which is a really cool idea, and the game encourages you to use these pals. But the thing about it is that these pals, I find that using them is more of a hindrance, with the exception of Ku with the Parasol ability and Kine with like the Spark ability. Like every other combination just feels more of a... It feels like it's more of a inconvenience than actually being good. Especially when you're using Kine, because Kine is just horrible. Like moving around with Kine, unless you're underwater, is terrible, and it actually makes the game harder by just having him. Whereas when you're moving around with, as I say, when you're moving around with Rick, he can't really float, so you have to time your jumps, and you're like playing a regular platformer then. And that's kind of interesting if you're looking for a challenge, because the game encourages you to utilize, to like keep the abilities that you have so that you can use them to access an area, so you can get like the rainbow drop and lots of one-ups. Like there's so many one-ups in this game, I can't even stress it enough. Like so many secret one-ups, and like it's so easy to get lives in this game. Like so easy. It's probably the easiest games to get lives in the entire Kirby game. I just think that this game is just broken. Like, this game is just broken in every single conceivable way. And I think that's the best way to describe it. It's just, there's no balance. It's just all broken. It has its fun moments because it's a fun challenge in certain areas, but it can also be a breeze depending on what you do. I mean, if you want to break the game, just go with Ku the whole game and just have him with Parasol ability and just like mash the button, and you basically have so many iframes that barely anything can hit you. And because you're flying, you can just fly anywhere you want, and you can use the ability to have iframes to avoid most of the things. So it's very, very rare that you'll actually get hit when you're using Ku. And yeah, so whereas certain abilities I just don't like using certain abilities in this game. Like there aren't that many great ones. I mean, probably the best ability, like standalone ability in this game, is Cutter. Like that is probably the best one. Either that or Burning. Like Burning and Cutter are really good. Ice is decent, I guess. But then you get abilities like Parasol where you have to be right next to the enemy, and you know, like obviously this was the case in other games, but I feel that Adventure has more powers, which essentially allows Adventure to like it just feels better personally, whereas this you're more limited, and like just certain powers just really suck with certain companions. Like Needle, for example. Needle sucks so much. It's the worst power. Like honestly, like I mean, the thing about it is as well is like Stone, like it's like Needle is basically not much different from Stone, because it's just like, yeah, you can do it on the spot, I guess, and you don't instantly drop, but the thing about Needle is, yeah, you can do it in place, but there's not really that much range to it. So yeah, that's one thing to bear in mind. But I don't know, like the powers aren't really the powers that I would go for. Like, I mean, you can mix and match, like I say, but some of them, like Needle and Ku, are terrible. Like that power is just that power is a hindrance. It just is. And there's actual levels where using that power just becomes problematic, and just the levels just don't flow well. Like, for example, there's this level where, like, you're supposed to get these abilities. Well, these are the abilities that you're more likely to get, and it's Ku and the Needle. And when I got that, I basically had to go through a part of the level where I had to go upwards and break blocks. Well, the problem is that the Needle ability only hits directly below you. So I had to just kind of get right next to the block just to break it, because there's these blocks that you have to break above to access the next area in the level. And I had to basically get right next to them and break them, each individual tiny block, and just slightly get the slight end of the Needle from the bottom, just to barely touch it so it'd destroy it. Yeah, not the most ideal way. Like, it would have been better if they gave us high jump or something like that. I mean, that's one thing that this does have, though. There are some levels where they clearly do bear in mind that you have certain abilities, and it does feel good to utilize some abilities in the levels, but yeah, the balancing in this game is weird. It's just a really weird game, I feel, from what I played. But I did have some fun with it, and I do think that it is a solid game overall. Where would I put it though? I mean, Kirby's Adventure is a much more interesting game. I mean, given the fact, like, I feel that Kirby's Adventure has more abilities, and I just think, yeah, like, but this has the pals, and it's just like, it is, for me, it's a toss-up really, because the pals really do make a huge difference. Like, I don't know, like, it's really hard to decide between these two games, honestly. To be honest, for as broken and imbalanced as this game is, I actually want to put it here. I actually want to put it at the top of It Sucks. Just simply because, like, this is an NES game, this is another Game Boy game, and I respect the fact that they managed to make a Game Boy game that has so much, like, it's the same thing, it's like, Kirby's Dreamland was a very short game. Kirby's Adventure was a long game. This is a long game, but it's on the same system as Kirby's Dreamland. So really, Kirby's Dreamland 2 is basically what Kirby's Adventure should have been. Instead of releasing Kirby on the NES, release it on a handheld, so we can play it on the go, and give it plenty of levels. Like, so in that sense, it's the perfect sequel to Dreamland, you know? It's a fantastic sequel, because it had so much, and when you consider when it came out, it is definitely, I would put it above Adventure, just simply because it tries to do something different. But I will definitely say it is not exactly, I mean, I don't know. It's definitely the beginning of the Shimamura saga, and you can see it. And Shimamura definitely had to put a lot of work into future installments to kind of improve them, as you will see soon enough. But now we have Kirby Superstar. Now you're probably thinking, oh, I'm just going to rate Kirby Superstar on its own. Nope. I'm going to rate each individual game, starting from Spring Breeze. Yeah, Spring Breeze is Kirby's Dreamland but with copy abilities, and they don't even have the full game. I'm going to put it here. It's fun enough if you wanted to play Kirby's Dreamland but with the copy abilities of Adventure, this is it. But it doesn't have the full game, so obviously Dreamland is better. Yeah, but it's not bad, it's okay. I mean, you do have copy abilities, which this doesn't have, but this has extra mode, this doesn't, so yeah. Gourmet Race is kind of more like a mini game. I mean, it's just kind of like you're racing through levels and you're just jumping over obstacles and running around, like trying to beat Dee in a race and collecting like fruit. It's a fun enough mode, but there's nothing substantial, there's nothing incredible or amazing. I mean, it's kind of like Pinball Land. I mean, honestly, I mean, I put it... It's hard to say where I put this. I probably put it here. I don't think it's terrible, but it's not really a mode that I would go out of my way to play personally. Like, it's just kind of there. And, yeah, next we have Dynablade. And this one is where they started to, like, really introduce some new locations in Superstar. And, I mean, Dynablade's biggest gimmick is that you have like the world map system of Mario. So it's kind of like got the Mario 3 world map sort of thing going with it and going for it. And it's much smaller than Mario 3, but yeah, that's kind of its gimmick. But other than that, as I say, it's just a fun platformer. Like, it's just basically the first game in Superstar that actually has its own unique levels instead of just being like Dreamland. And given the fact that I like Superstar a lot as a whole, and this is definitely a fun, short game in Superstar to get you started, once you finish Spring Breeze that is, I really like this a lot. I mean, obviously I'm ranking all of the Superstar levels, and this is definitely one that's good, and I really like Dynablade quite a lot. So given that fact, I mean, also I really love the music of the castle stage so much. Oh my god, the music that plays in the castle stage in Dynablade is fucking amazing. I love it. And yeah, this is just a fun time. I think this just edges out to It Sucks a lot because it's fun to play. Like, gameplay wise, it's got Superstar's gameplay, and I mean, if I was to rank Superstar on its own, it'll be up here. But I'm gonna rank each individual game because I think that's more fun. Yeah, Superstar is one of the best Kirby games, and for that reason alone, and since it's the first original Superstar level, it at least deserves to be up here. And at the same time, it's still fun, even if it is short, and the music is pretty awesome as well. I love the music. Great Cave Offensive, S tier. Well, it sucks everything tier. This is fucking amazing. I love the Great Cave Offensive so much. This is one of the best Kirby games ever. Without a doubt. Like, there's just so much to do. I mean, if I had to give one criticism to the Great Cave Offensive, it's that all the stuff you collect is just kind of pointless. It's just bragging rights rewards, that's it. But it's fun to go out of your way and find them and collect them. Like, if you just like collecting things and you like collectathons, this is definitely the mode you want to be playing in a Kirby game, because like, it's one of those games where you can just get through this game really quick, but if you want to collect everything, you're going to spend ages like roaming around the levels, and like the levels. I feel like this is like the first Kirby game that truly felt like a Metroidvania style experience, if you know what I'm saying, like in the sense that you just like have to go around every nook and cranny to find things. It feels like a Kirby Metroidvania. That's kind of what this is. But the difference being that, unlike the Metroidvania games, the stuff that you find isn't really useful. Like, it would be nice if you got some rewards that were actually practical. Like, if you collect so many, you'll get like a perk in the game or something. Like, I don't know, like you get like, I mean, it's like Milky Way Wishes, you get to unlock abilities permanently, which would have been interesting if you had that in Great Cave Offensive instead, but I guess not. Regardless, I do like the Great Cave Offensive a lot. There's so much to do. The levels are really like interesting, and there's some like the levels are huge and just fun to explore. And this is definitely the game. Well, in at least one of the games for you if you like exploring. There is another one, and I'll get to that later. But yeah, this is definitely a solid one, and the fact that it's in Kirby Superstar definitely gives it all the points. This is the game for you if you love exploration and you love to explore every nook and cranny in a video game. This is the one, and yeah, it's just such a fun game to indulge in. Kirby Revenge of Meta Knight. This one is an interesting one because you have a time limit. Time limits and I don't usually see eye to eye. I'm not a fan of time limits. But the thing I will give Revenge of Meta Knight is that Revenge of Meta Knight has its own story. And that's cool. Like, you rarely ever see a story in a Kirby game, like, with actual dialogue. And it's something that I really love. And, yeah, obviously, like, the way that they go about it, you know, with Kirby rushing around the fucking halberds, just breaking each individual pie, it's really fun. And it's a very quick game. It's not too long, but it's not too short either, and it still feels like there's a lot to like sink your teeth into despite all of that. And the final confrontation at the end with Meta Knight is fantastic. This is a classic, and I always love going back to it and playing it. Definitely one that I absolutely love. I'm trying to think where am I going to put this. I'm going to put it here. I think that this is a good spot for it, really, because it is a solid game. It's Kirby Superstar. As I say, I would have put Superstar on S rank anyways, so I think it definitely deserves to be S because it's just so unique, and with the story and stuff, and obviously like exploring the halberd is fun. Like, some of the bosses are like a bit kind of weird, but like it's a fun time, and the dialogue's just fun, and like the vibes that you get from it are fun, and yeah, I enjoyed it, but I do like the Great Cave Offensive more. And then we have Milky Way Wishes. This is the final story in Kirby Superstar. And yeah, this is the one game, as I said before, where you actually get to keep copy abilities permanently, and like you get to collect all the copy abilities, which you can like select and use them on the fly. So you don't actually have to suck any enemies up in this game. You just need to collect the copy abilities, and like you can keep them permanently, and you can swap abilities on the fly at any time, which is so damn cool. Like that should have been something that you unlocked in the Great Cave Offensive. I think that would have been a cool thing to give more purpose to the collectibles. But nevertheless, it's in this, and I really like the fact that you can just like swap abilities on the fly, and it means that you have the most flexible Kirby in the series. because he could just be anything at any time. So Kirby is like so freaking strong and powerful. It's insane. And even if you don't have like the thing about it is if you swallow enemies, it's like Kirby's Dreamland in the sense that you don't get anything for swallowing enemies. But there is an ability that lets you copy that you can actually get early on and unlock early on. And if you have it, you can copy any ability by scanning an enemy. Obviously you have to find it and it's kind of hard to find, but if you do find it, you can scan an enemy and it'll basically copy their ability without you having to actually swallow them, which is kind of handy early on. But where would I put this? It has to be on S tier. It has to be on It Sucks Everything. Even though you don't suck everything, you can have everything. You can have every power. How cool is that? And of course, on top of that, you have like a fucking Air Fortress style level at the end, and you know, really cool final boss. Yeah, like it's the finale of the game. I love like the map in this game where you get to fly around in outer space on different worlds. Such a cool concept. I really love Milky Way Wishes a lot. Next we have Kirby's Dream Course. Well, gotta be honest, I'm not a big fan of golf games. Like, I know Majority loves his golf, and I'm sure he absolutely adores this game, but me, I'm not really a fan. I just don't like golf, and this game I just find to be kind of annoying to play. Like, I just never got far in it, and I just kind of dropped it just simply because I just don't like golf. I don't like the concept of having to get the lowest score, and every time you fucking, like, miss a hole-in-one and you lose a point, it's just like, why even bother? Like, every attempt you do that you fail to get a hole, you just feel more shittier and shittier about yourself because you're not getting a higher score each time, you're getting a lower score, so you just want to quit. And that's kind of how I feel playing golf games. So for me, I don't think it's the worst game ever. It's not down here, but it's definitely the bottom of It Sucks. Like it's okay, I guess, if you like golf, and it's not horrendous. It's not the worst Kirby game out there. We'll get to that, but it's definitely not the best for me. But I do have to give it some credit. It's unique. It's not just your typical golf game. It's not just golf, but Kirby's like hitting golf balls with a golf cue. It's not like fucking Mario Golf where it's just golf, but you just play it, but you just have Mario on screen like shooting a freaking golf ball. Like, no, Kirby himself is the golf ball, and he can use powers to make the experience even more interesting. It's a really unique golf game, and I give it all the credit in the world. It's just not for me. It might be, like, I'm pretty sure Majority would put it up here because he loves golf. If you love golf, you're going to put it up here. But if you don't love golf, it's going to be down here. Or down here. But I'm not going to be cool, I'm going to put it here. I do think that it's a unique game and it is kind of interesting. It's just not my kind of game. Anyways, now we have Kirby's Ghost Trap. This game was a game that a friend of mine always used to want to play because he would whoop my ass at it. Because I suck at Puyo Puyo. But yeah, like this game is basically like Star Stacker, same sort of thing, but it's, in my opinion, not as good as Star Stacker, but it's still decent. I mean, it's Puyo Puyo, you get what you get. I mean, it's as simple as you can get. What more is there? It's cool that they added some little stories in there, like with all the little characters and the voice acting, which I always joke that they used to basically enslave children to do the voices for this game because they sound like kids. And I'm just like, why are kids doing the voice acting? Like they're enslaving children to do the fucking voices. Like, it's evil, pure evil. But yeah, like, either ways, I'd put it there. I don't think it's as good as Star Stacker. I think Star Stacker's original. This is just Puyo Puyo. This is just Puyo Puyo with a Kirby skin. But it's at least somewhat interesting with, like, the story, I guess. So it gets some points for that. But either ways, yeah, it goes there. Okay, next up we have Kirby's Dreamland 3. So obviously, Kirby's Dreamland 3 is the sequel to Kirby's Dreamland 2. It's part of the Shimamura saga, so it has nothing to do with Superstar, has nothing to do with, like, any of Sakurai's games. This is the Shimamura series. So it just continues on from Dreamland 2. And just like Dreamland 2, it has the pals and stuff, but there's another one I remember, like, there's two more, I think. I don't know if there's any more, but I know that there's like this cat, and then there's this bird. Not coon, there's another bird. It's like this little green bird. And yeah, so you get some new pals, and you also have like way more levels as well, so it's a much bigger game. Now, the game, unlike Kirby's Dreamland 2, Kirby's Dreamland 3 was not released on the Game Boy or any handheld device, it was released on the Super Nintendo. And because of this, the game is gorgeous. Like, it's the first game to use that picture book art style, that children's picture book art style that Shimomura is known for. And the soundtrack of this game is also pretty damn good. I really love the soundtrack of Kirby's Dreamland 3 a lot. Like, it's definitely one of the better soundtracks in the series by far, and the game is pretty hard. Like, no joke, this is one of the harder Kirby games. Unlike Kirby's Dreamland 2, which, yeah, it has its hard moments, like, particularly near the end, but this game feels a lot more challenging in general. And, while I do feel that the powers are a lot better, like, executed in this game than they were in Kirby's Dreamland 2 overall, as they are, I do feel that they have more, like, the abilities are just, like, you can have way more abilities because there's more powers. And because of that, there's a lot more, like, I feel like it's a little bit better overall how they handled them. It is an improvement in that regard. But the game is still challenging, and trying to get all of the heart styles is a real pain in the ass. And I feel that's the biggest problem with Kirby's Dreamland 3, because it's so fucking cryptic getting all those collectibles. And the problem is, to access the final boss of the game and the final world, you have to get all the collectibles, and it's a real pain because instead of like finding them in the levels, they're more like puzzles that you have to solve, or like you have to do specific things in a level that the game doesn't really tell you, but you have to know to do it. So yeah, it's not really the best collectibles. It's probably the most obnoxious of all the collectibles. It's really annoying to deal with, the heart stars in this game. Like, I just hate the way that they like place the heart stars in this game. But I do like the game overall. I mean, as I say, it is challenging. I feel that overall the game is still pretty tough. Like, regardless, I mean, like, as I say, like, Kirby's Dreamland 2 was a lot easier and a lot less hard going, whereas this, I feel that all the levels are a little bit more demanding. This is definitely one of the harder Kirby games out there. If you want a more challenging Kirby game, Kirby's Dreamland 3 is definitely for you. But other than that, as I say, it's still a fun Kirby game. I still prefer Superstar, but I definitely have to give this game some credit because, as I say, the music in this game is really good, some of the best music in the series. And on top of that, as I say, this game, for a Super Nintendo, this game looks gorgeous. So, I'm going to rank it on It Sucks a Lot, because I really do like this game. I mean, it is a controversial Kirby game. A lot of people don't really like this one, or struggle to get into this one. I personally do like this one, and I feel that it's kind of like Marmite. This one is love it or hate it game, pretty much, and I feel that if you really like Shimomura, you're going to like this, but if you really don't like Shimomura, you are really not going to like this game. I think that's just kind of how it is, really. Anyway, speaking of Shimomura, we have the final Shimomura Kirby game, Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards, which is basically Kirby's Dreamland 4, but because it's on the Nintendo 64, it's called Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards. So, this game, as I say, it's the final game in the saga. There's no more games that like continue on from 64. So, like, if you played Dreamland 2 and Dreamland 3, this is kind of like the finale of that saga. And there's music from Kirby's Dreamland 3 in Kirby 64 that has been remixed and stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty cool that they have callbacks, but you don't have the powers in this game. Instead, what you have is the ability to like combine each ability into other abilities to make a unique ability. So you have dual copy abilities, and this is the only game in the series to this day where you can actually combine copy abilities into other copy abilities to make a unique copy ability, and it's so cool. Like, you can get like the fire ability, and like then you can like you can put it like above your head and then throw it at an enemy. who like is like a cutter enemy, and then it'll merge, and then you suck that up, and then you like once you've swallowed it, it'll essentially give you a fucking huge ass fire sword, like this massive like two-handed fire sword, which like Kirby like holds behind him. And what you can do with this is you can swing it by pressing the attack button, and it will swing, and you can hit enemies with it. But what makes it even better is you can actually just turn around, and enemies that are like in front of you, like you'll just turn around, and then you'll just instantly hit them, because the fire sword, like it goes behind Kirby, so when you turn around, like the pointed end of the sword will hit them and kill them, and it's a really fast and efficient way of dealing with enemies. But the problem with the sword is you can't like float when you have the sword out. But if that isn't a problem, it's a really, really good ability. And on top of that, you can actually throw the sword, so you can move the sword above your head to hit enemies above you, and then you can throw it to hit enemies like far away. So you can do stuff like that, and you can also get like the spark ability and the ice ability, and it basically transforms Kirby into a refrigerator where he spits food out, which is really cool. Like they really went all the way with this game. But what makes this game stand out to me the most is the same thing as Dreamland 3. Like, basically take everything Kirby's Dreamland 3 did right, except from the pals, and like take it to the next level, and you have Kirby 64. Like, this game is gorgeous. Like, the picture book art style, like, it just, I just love it. Like, it's kind of similar to that of Radiata Stories, the same UI. Like, I find it weird how Radiata Stories has a similar UI aesthetic to Kirby 64. Like, it's so weird, but like, either ways, this game is truly special to me, and you should already know where I'm placing this game. It's pretty obvious if you've watched my top 10 favourite games of all time list. You'll know that this is my favourite Kirby game of all time, because it is on that list if you watch that list. And the reason being is, well, as I say, this game, as I say, just like Kirby's Dreamland 3, gorgeous aesthetic. Like, the soundtrack of this game is fucking amazing. I love this game's soundtrack to death. Like, it is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And not only that, but this game also has a story to it. So you can have characters, you basically have all the characters like making all of these expressions and stuff, but they don't actually speak, so there's no dialogue like Revenge of Meta Knight, but you have these cutscenes where you can clearly see what the characters are thinking and what they're trying to express through their expressions and stuff. And yeah, it's a really cool, like, very wholesome adventure, and I just like how they added that extra story element to it to kind of give more context to what's going on. And that's something that I feel that a lot of Kirby games are lacking, and this one does not lack that. It's more than just like Kirby just roaming through levels. There's an actual plot, there's an actual story to this game, which I absolutely love. And yeah, like I say, the soundtrack in this game is fantastic. I love the music that plays in the forest area and at the start, and like the ruins area, and like in the underwater area that you're in. Like, the music that plays there is really epic. And obviously I love the music that plays in Rockstar. That song is just so damn catchy, it's unbelievable. Like, I love that song to death. It's just peak Kirby soundtrack. That's what this game has. And on top of that, this game is actually quite challenging, because unlike other Kirby games, you actually have a limit to how many times you can jump, and that can actually make things pretty tricky, because this is not an easy Kirby game. This is one of the harder ones. I wouldn't say it's as hard as Kirby's Dreamland 3, but it's still a challenging Kirby game nonetheless, because, as I say, you don't have infinite jumps, so you have to kind of like time your jumps well, like time each float well to like get across places, but at least you do get the float. So even if you make a mistake, you still get more chances, so it's still forgiving, unlike certain platformers out there, but it is just a little bit more challenging. But I actually think that's more satisfying personally. And yeah, like, a lot of people trash on Kirby 64 because of how slow it is, but honestly I just think it fits the tone of this game. The steady pace of this game really fits Kirby so damn well, and like, I think the best way to describe Kirby 64 as a whole is it's one of those games, like, I never played it as a kid, but whenever I play it, like, it takes me back to my childhood, because it has that picture book aesthetic, and it has that wholesome adventure and everything else, that it just gives me those childhood memory vibes. On top of that, it's got the whole 2.5D sort of thing, so it's side-scrolling, but it's got 3D environments, so it's kind of like Klonoa, but better. That's basically the best way to describe this game. It's like a better version of Klonoa. But in a way, it's the same reason why I love Battlefield Power 2 so much, because it's the same thing, side-scrolling and 3D environments. I'm a sucker for that shit, and this game does it, and I absolutely love that. So Kirby 64 is definitely the best Kirby game for me, without a doubt. Anyways, next we have Nightmare in Dreamland. This game is basically Kirby's Adventure, but with better graphics. I mean, it's basically the remake of Kirby's Adventure. There's not really much else to say. I'm putting it above Kirby's Adventure just simply because it is a remake and it's enhanced and there's more to do. Like, you've got like the Meta Nightmare mode, which I'm not going to rank as a separate mode. There is one in Superstar Ultra as well. But yeah, like, it's just an expanded version of Adventure, just a remake of Adventure, so yeah. Next up we have Kirby Air Ride. Oh my god, this game. This was my very first Kirby game, and this game, like, I could play this game forever, people. This game is hands down one of the best racing games ever made. Like, the reason why I love this game so much is, like, and I want to bring this up, like, the one thing that Kirby has always done well that Mario has failed is make the sports spin-offs, or make like the spin-off titles unique. Like, if you play Mario Kart, it's just Mario in a go-kart racing. If you play Mario Golf, it's just Mario swinging a golf club. In Kirby, you have, like, you don't have Kirby swinging a golf club. Kirby is the golf ball, which is unique and interesting, and he has copy abilities, which completely changes the nature of the golf. I mean, yeah, I get that Mario has like gimmicks and stuff, like he has the whole warp pipe thing that you can do in Mario Golf, and like you have the items that you can throw and like double dash, but like Kirby Air Ride is unique because it plays more like an F-Zero game in the sense that you're basically using Kirby and you're like on these like hover machines, like they're basically stars, so you have like the warp star, which is one of like his primary vehicle, but you have other vehicles that you can unlock. And yeah, they all handle completely differently. Some of them handicap you, but some of them are actually really good. And yeah, like this is the, like, I think the best way to describe Kirby Air Ride is it's the ultimate multiplayer experience, but in more ways than one. Because not only is it very accessible, like unlike F-Zero GX, which I wouldn't personally consider that to be a good multiplayer game, just simply because of the skill gap. Like, if you're bringing friends over to play F-Zero GX, you're going to have an unfair advantage because you've played F-Zero GX, you've played it to death, and you know that game. They don't know that game, so they're going to struggle. Whereas in Kirby Air Ride, everyone has a fair chance because it's not too demanding, and I feel like that makes it a better multiplayer experience overall. But on top of that, and I haven't even touched the beginning of it, like I said, like Mario Kart it doesn't really have anything unique. Like Kirby Air Ride, you can suck up enemies and use their powers to like slow other racers down, and like you can like glide through the air and stuff with the machine that you're in, or the as I say, like I call it machine because I have F-Zero, but like the star that you're in. And there's also bikes as well. You can ride a wheelie, like the wheelie enemy, you can ride that as a bike, which was first seen in Revenge of, like, actually I think it was first seen in like Kirby 64 in general, but like, it's mostly well known for Revenge of Meta Knight because you have to use that ability at the end of Revenge of Meta Knight. So yeah, you basically get to drive that as a vehicle in this game, which is really cool. But yeah, as I say, like it's just like the wheelie partner, but like when you're riding on top of it. But yeah, and you're using it in a racing game. But that's not all this game has. Like, if you play Mario Kart, all you get is Grand Prix mode, and that's it. You get time trials as well if you want, but you just have Grand Prix and time trial. This game has Air Ride mode, which is basically, I wouldn't really say it's Grand Prix, there isn't a Grand Prix mode in this game, but it's more exhibition race, but you also get time trial for Air Ride mode. But not only that, you also get Top Ride mode, which is like a top-down version. You can't swallow enemies to get abilities, but there's power-ups that you can use to like harm other racers or like speed yourself up, and the tracks each have their own gimmicks that allow you to like exploit them to like skip parts of the track, or like there's obstacles or hazards, or you get to like propel yourself faster and stuff. Like it's a really fun, simple mode that's a lot that you can just play for some good old-fashioned fun. It's more closer to that Mario Kart, but it's on a much smaller scale than Air Ride, and I actually find sometimes it's more fun to play Top Ride than Air Ride, just simply because of how chaotic it is. But then you have the best mode, City Trial, and City Trial just sums up it perfectly sums up what gaming was like back in the 2000s. When you have games that were so feature rich and had a bit of everything and had so much put into them. I know that open world is kind of the norm now and that you see it all the time, but I feel that game developers have missed the point of what an open world's supposed to be. It's not about having more to do, it's more about freedom. It's the sandbox that matters, and City Trial is a sandbox. It's a mode where you and either the computer or other players can basically freely roam this city area, this like hub city area, and each area in the city has different districts and stuff, and there's events that happen in the city, and like you can partake in them or you don't need to, and you can hunt for like items to strengthen your machines to prepare them for like the stadium mode, which is like the final battle, which is basically like an event, like some kind of a mini game, or it's a race along like either a drag race, or you get like one of the many races that in Air Ride that you can play. And yeah, like this mode just feels so fleshed out, and there's so much to do and mess around with, and you get rewarded for messing around with it, because this game is one of the first games to actually have an achievement system. Like, achievement systems weren't common in games back in the day, but this game had it, and this is, unlike achievements nowadays where you just get like a ping and then you get a trophy, you actually get rewards with your achievements. So that's how you unlock new content in the game. You unlock new content in Air Ride just by playing the game and messing around and experimenting and trying new things, and that's where the appeal of this game comes from. And it's not about winning. This game is not a game that you play to win. This is a game that you play to experience, have fun, and mess about in. And in that regard, it's one of the best racing games out there. Is it as good as F-Zero GX? No, but I still have a fondness for it, and it's definitely my next. It's definitely like my second option if I want to play a GameCube racing game. So for that reason, I put it up here on It Sucks Everything, because this game literally has everything you could want in a racing game, except maybe like vehicle customization, but if I want that, I'll just play GX, so, you know. Either way, I love Kirby Air Ride to death. Next we have my first platformer. Like, this was my first Kirby platformer, and it is Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. This game is obviously special to me because it's my first Kirby platformer, but like I said before with the Great Cave Offensive, there's another game that feels very much like a Metroidvania, and this game is basically the Kirby Metroidvania game on GBA. So this is very much like the Great Cave Offensive, except the items that you get from treasure, instead of like getting treasure that is just kind of pointless, you actually unlock stuff like new colours for Kirby and like stuff for the sound test and other features like that from the treasures. So you still have treasures to find and collect, but they're not completely pointless, not just bragging rights rewards. And just like the Great Cave Offensive, as I say, you have an interconnected world, so it's just like a Metroidvania style game, but with Kirby. So you can basically like roam around freely around this interconnected world, and it's just so cool. I love it. And yeah, like obviously, like there are some problems with this game. Like, I won't really say problems, but there is one thing that is a bit of a downer about this game, and it's that they kind of got rid of like the not fully, because they did bring some new things to it, but they got rid of all of like the different moves that you could do with each power in like Kirby Superstar, where you could like use a charged beam, or like you could do the dash beam attack where Kirby dashes, jumps up, and then you can just fire a barrage of beams diagonally beneath you. Yeah, you can't do that in this game, though there are some new ones, like for example the final cutter move that you could use in Kirby Superstar. You can now use that move on Kirby's sword ability. Now, this game came out after Smash Bros, and it took a lot of inspiration from Smash Bros, so Final Cutter is one of Kirby's moves in Smash Bros, and that's why instead of using it as a cutter ability, now it's as a sword ability. So if you played Superstar, when you used the sword, it was kind of different. Like when you press up with the sword, you kind of do like this upward lunge attack, in this game you do a final cutter instead. So there are some new aspects that were added to Amazing Mirror in terms of combo wise, but there's a lot that was lost unfortunately, and I just feel that combat wise it's not as good as Superstar, so that's one downside to it. But despite that, it's still a fun game. As I say, there's some great worlds to explore, lots of exploration value. If you love that sort of thing, if you like Metroidvania games, this is the Kirby game for you. And while you don't have like the partners that you have in Superstar, you still get all these Kirbys that you can ring up on the phone and they'll show up and they'll help you fight all the enemies on screen, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's definitely one of the more fun Kirby games overall, even though it was a step down in some ways. As I say, you could say the same about Dreamland 3 and Kirby 64, as they didn't have the combo attacks either, but they were the Shimamura games. This is where Sakurai kind of like decided that he was going to like get rid of a lot of stuff from Superstar, which was kind of a shame, but I do think that this game makes up for it in other areas. And I do really think that this game is still a lot of fun and it's unique because of its Metroidvania style. So for that reason, I'm actually going to put it, I'm going to put it here on its up a lot, because it's a really fun game. It's like a huge game, like lots to do, and if you like, I like the Great Cave Offensive. It's basically just like that. I just like the Great Cave Offensive more, just simply because you have more. Kirby's powers have more like utilities. There's more moves that you can do with each ability, and there's not as many in this game. But it's still a really good game, and definitely one that I cherish a lot. Anyways, next we have Kirby Canvas Curse, also known as Kirby Power Paintbrush in the UK. Now, this game is very different from all the other games because Kirby doesn't actually suck up enemies at all. Instead, he's a ball and you kind of like have to like control the ball with the stars, and you tap him to dash, and like the stars will like be used as bridges to get around places, as you can like paint like these like lines which Kirby moves on. It's a really innovative game, and it brought the best out of the DS, if you ask me. I feel like the Nintendo DS was made for this game, because I haven't played another DS game that is on the same level as this in regards to innovation. Like, it really brought the best out of the DS's like touchscreen capabilities. I say it feels like it was made for the DS. And yeah, like the only downside to that, as I say, is well, you can't really emulate it because you need the touchscreen, and yeah, you need to play this on an actual hardware, which is the biggest thing about it. So, as I say, you better still have a DS handy, you know what I mean, if you want to play this. But yeah, I absolutely love this game. Like, this game is unique, it's very different, and I like how they still have the copy abilities, so they still have, it's still a Kirby game fundamentally. You just, as I say, I think you dash into other enemies that have the copy abilities, and then you get the ability, and you can use the ability every time you dash. You actually use the ability. So yeah, and when you dash, you can actually hit enemies and kill them as well, and you can tap on enemies as well, I think, to stun them and stuff. Like, it's a very involving game, and like the music is mostly remixes from like Kirby 64, Dreamland 3, and all of that. Like, it's mostly remixes from those games, you know, the Shimamura games. So it pays a lot of homage to that, and like I mean, they even uses the same menu music from Kirby 64 remixed, which is really cool. Like, it feels like a homage to those games in so many ways, and for that reason, I really love this game. I mean, it's not for everyone. I think that there's some people that may not like it, but I really do like this game quite a lot. The question is, where am I going to put it? I mean, I really like Amazing Mirror as well. That's a really good one. I don't know where I'd put it between these. I mean, it's very hard to tell. I think this is very unique and different, whereas Amazing Mirror is also unique and different, but in a different way. But Amazing Mirror is more traditional. This is just a completely different game entirely. But I really love it for what it does. But I do kind of still have some fondness for Amazing Mirror. I love the whole Metroidvania approach that it has. So for that reason, I'm going to put Canvas Curse here, but it's very close between the two. I love both of them so much. But yeah. Anyways, next we have Kirby Squeak Squad. This game is very middle of the road. It's definitely not a bad Kirby game. I enjoyed it, but it's not really the most noteworthy Kirby game. Like, this is probably the easiest Kirby game in the series, and it's probably, as I say, like, you even get like an inventory which lets you stock up on items, and you can hold onto items to use them at any point, which can make the experience really, like, it can kind of make the experience like an absolute cheese, you know, that you can just cheese this game so easily. It's a cakewalk. But it's a fun game, it's a fun time. I don't feel that there's much that really stands out about this game compared to others, but it's very much like Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, but like with like an inventory that you can mess around. You can stock abilities that you can use. It's not like Milky Way Wishes where you keep those abilities permanently. They are all consumable, but it is a cool idea, I guess. But other than that, it's basically a more linear version of Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. That's basically what this game is. Like, it doesn't have the combos and stuff. Like, it doesn't have, I mean, the moves and abilities that you have in Superstar. It still has pretty much everything that you have in Amazing Mirror. All that sort of abilities are in this, so it's basically Kirby and Amazing Mirror, but without the Metroidvania, without all of the like things that make Amazing Mirror unique. So this is kind of like the most conventional Kirby game. It's basically like on the same level as Kirby's Adventure and Nightmare and Dreamland. But where would I put this? I don't know. Like, honestly, like, it's an easy game to get into and jump into, but I feel that Kirby's Adventure and Nightmare and Dreamland are like more iconic. I feel that for the time, those games were a lot better, whereas this game, I'm going to put it here because these games, like, as I say, this is a remake of it and it's a pretty good one. This game feels like it just belonged on the GBA. Like, it just felt like this is just this is kind of like a game that would have been released between Kirby's Dreamland. Like, this is like the game that would have been released in between Kirby 64 and Amazing Mirror, but it was released later on, and it's just kind of there. I still like the game, I still think it's a lot of fun, it's just far from the best Kirby game. I think there's better out there. Anyways, next we have Kirby Superstar Ultra, which I know that Kirby Superstar Ultra has like multiple like modes. It has like the Meta Nightmare and stuff. But Revenge of the King is very similar to Revenge of Meta Knight, but it's basically Spring Breeze again. I think it's more of an expanded version of it, but yeah, I mean, come on, like, we played Kirby's Dreamland, then we played Spring Breeze, and now we have to do it again in Revenge of the King? Like, really? But yeah, like, that's basically Revenge of the King, pretty much. But it is like Revenge of Meta Knight in the sense that you have, like, dialogue and, like, there's an actual more fleshed out story and stuff, which is really cool. I do like that aspect of it. So, in a way, even though you're going through similar levels again, like, it is different. It is a fresh experience, and I do kind of like that, and it is still Superstar, well, Superstar Ultra, so you have all of the abilities that you have in Superstar. It is basically a better version of Spring Breeze. That's pretty much what this is. I mean, is it a better version of Dreamland? Well, that's debatable. If you like the simplicity of Dreamland better, then you probably like that. But there's still a lot to like about this. I'd definitely say, personally speaking, this is the definitive way to experience like the levels in Kirby's Dreamland personally, and it is the better version of all of the Kirby's Dreamlands that you can do. So because of that, I'm actually going to put it up here because I feel like this game, like, it feels more fleshed out, it feels more like interesting than these two games do, and yeah, it's the superior version of Spring Breeze. That's literally what it is. And you know, I like how they actually managed to include a story, and like the DDD fight is a lot more interesting and stuff like that. So I would definitely say I'd put it on It Sucks a lot. Now here we have Kirby Mass Attack. More like Kirby Ass Attack. This game doesn't suck. This game doesn't suck, and that's a problem. That's a huge problem. You can't suck enemies in this game, and you can't also gain copy abilities in this game. This game, like, how is this even a Kirby game? Like, you can't even get copy abilities, you can't suck up enemies. I mean, I get that that's kind of the way in certain other Kirby games, like, I mean, Star Stacker and, like, Avalanche don't have all that stuff, but, you know, like, come on, like, they're spin-offs, but this game, they market it like it's, like, a mainline game, and it's just, it's not Kirby. I'm sorry, this game is not Kirby. And the gameplay is just so boring. Like, you basically just tap on an enemy or whatever, and then all the little Kirbys, like, gang up on the enemy and slowly beat them up. No, I just want to hit the enemy and kill it. Why is that so difficult to do? Why do I have to basically watch the Kirbys gang up on a single enemy? Like, it's so boring and lame, and the levels are just uninteresting. It's just, why? I mean, the one saving grace about this game is it does have a lot of good minigames, like I think there's that Stratus, like, shmup minigame for Kirby, and there's also, like, a parody, like, of Romancing Saga, but with Kirby, like, Romancing Kirby. in this, which is kind of interesting, but it doesn't make up for the fact that this game is a fucking huge pile of ass, and for that reason it doesn't suck, so therefore it's bad rating. Anyways, now we have Kirby's Return to Dreamland. Oh boy, this game truly is something special. Like, but I have a story about this game because this game goes way back to like the GameCube era, because this is basically the unreleased GameCube Kirby game that we never got. Like, this is basically like the apology for not giving us Kirby on the GameCube, and I'm still bitter to this day that we did not get Kirby on the GameCube, because that game, when I saw that trailer and I looked up magazine articles for that game, I was so unbelievably hyped for that fucking game. I can't stress it enough. I don't think I've ever been hyped for a game as much as I was hyped for like Kirby on the GameCube. Oh my god, that game had me so hyped. I mean, maybe Smash Bros. Brawl and like Pokemon Silver were the only others, and Pokemon Colosseum. Those are the only others that could possibly match the amount of hype I had for a game that I had for Kirby's Adventure on the GameCube. I really wanted that game to come out, but it didn't, and instead we got Kirby's Return to Dreamland, which kind of like, it was the apology letter. It kind of patched things up, and just like, it's a bit like a Devil May Cry 2 job, in the sense that they had all of this stuff there and they used it again, but the game wasn't finished, so they had to kind of like patch it all up and make it look like a finished product. And that's kind of what Return to Dreamland is. But to its credit, this is a solid game. This is not just a throwaway Kirby game. This is absolutely one of Kirby's best games by far, and I absolutely adore this game to death. Like, this game deserves a lot of credit, just simply because not only did it bring back the movesets from Kirby Superstar. Yeah, all the movesets that were taken out in Amazing Mirror and onwards, they're back in this game. So you can actually use like all of the sword movesets from Superstar again. And yeah, that's really cool. Now, the downside is that they got rid of the... Well, they didn't get rid of it, like, they just changed the partner system, because you can't just, like, convert enemies into partners anymore, which was originally planned on the GameCube version, by the way, which should tell you a lot in regards to how hyped I was. They scrapped that. Instead, now you just get Meta Knight, Bandana Waddle-Dee, and King Dedede, which, I mean, it's something, but I personally would have preferred to, like, have the enemies, because it means that there's more of them, and it's more interesting. I get to play as Waddle-Doo, my boy, fucking Waddle-Doo, I've got to play as him. Like, you know, like, so, yeah, you can't play as him in this game, and yet you can in Camber's Curse, which is kind of sad, you know, but he's a ball in that game. But you can't play as him in this, which is a shame. But, nevertheless, I still love this game to death. One thing that I absolutely adore about this game is the soundtrack. This game has my second favourite soundtrack in the Kirby series, beaten only by Kirby 64. And I cannot stress that enough. It's almost as if like they went all out with the music in this game. I still prefer 64's soundtrack personally, but this is definitely a banger of a soundtrack nonetheless. Like, this feels like the swan song of Kirby, except it wasn't the swan song of Kirby, because Kirby's still going. But this was the swan song for me. Honestly, if the Kirby series ended here, I would have been happy if it ended here. I would have been happy if it ended on Kirby 64, to be honest, but this is like a return to, like, it's kind of like going back to, like, Superstar era, and, like, it feels like a love letter to fans in every single meaning of the word. So, where would I put this? I have a lot of love for this game, but I have a lot more love for Kirby 64, and I also have a lot more love for, like, Superstar, you know, and Air Ride, but I still think it belongs up here. It absolutely does belong up there. This is one of the best Kirby games, and I think if you're not talking about, because a lot of my love for 64 and like Air Ride and Superstar, a lot of that is kind of like sentimental. If you're talking purely objectively, this is probably the best Kirby game ever made. Like, if you're just talking that, but obviously because of sentiment, I love this game more, and same with these games, and of course this, you know, but this game was amazing. I definitely feel that this game is amazing, but it unfortunately didn't fully live up to its potential because it cut things from the GameCube version, which I'm still bitter about. Like, I really am bitter. Like, I was heartbroken when they cancelled the GameCube version. Oh my god, I was looking forward to that game so much and it got cancelled. Like, I was so heartbroken, I cannot even begin to express how heartbroken I was. But yeah, that's a Kirby Return to Dreamland, fantastic game. Oh, and I must absolutely say, like, the final boss music for this game is a fucking banger and a half. Like, it fucking goes hard. I mean, it fucking goes hard. Like, particularly the first phase. Oh my god! Like, I mean, same goes for this, but in a different way. Like, man, I just had to go out and say that. But anyways, we have one more game to cover, and that is Kirby Triple Deluxe. This was the last Kirby game I played, and it was also the last, like, the last Nintendo. Not obviously, I still play the old Nintendo games. This is the last new Nintendo game I played. I haven't played a Nintendo game since that is new. Like, obviously, I've gone back to playing retro games and playing, like, I'm still playing, like, having new experiences with old Nintendo games. But this is the last new Nintendo game I ever bought. And I haven't bought a new Nintendo game since buying this. And, what do I have to say about Triple Deluxe? I think it's a solid game. It definitely keeps everything from Return to Dreamland, except the partners, obviously, and other than that, it doesn't really do much else. I mean, it's kind of designed around the 3D aspect that was brought about with the 3DS, but I used the 2DS to play this game because I never owned a 3DS. And yeah, like, this game, honestly, I feel that after playing Return to Dreamland, like, like, that game set my expectations so unbelievably high that there was just no way that I would live up to those expectations. And I just feel that I just kind of, like, I never finished this game, and I just think I just lost interest just simply because it was just another Kirby game, you know? I know it's sad to say because this game does do a lot of things right, and it's still one of, like, objectively speaking, one of the better Kirby games that I've listed, but at the same time, like, I don't really feel much for this game like I do the others. I never finished it, which should tell you a lot about it. I just dropped it, and I didn't really get anything about this game that just screamed, oh my god, this is amazing, this is like a timeless game that I must go back to. It's kind of like Squeak Squad in a way, but, you know, I mean, it is probably a better game than Squeak Squad, but honestly, like, from my personal opinion, like, I'm just gonna have to put it here. Alright, well, actually no, I finished Squeak Squad. So, even though it's probably a better game than Squeak Squad, I'm gonna put it here before Squeak Squad. Yeah, like, Kirby Triple Deluxe is just... It's still a really good game, and I feel that it should be somewhere up here. Like, it should be around here, or probably here. This is probably where it should be. But instead I'm putting it here just simply because of the impression I got from it. It just didn't feel special like the others. It doesn't feel like it belongs up here, even though it really does, objectively speaking. But that's just my personal opinion. I understand if people love this game, I get it. But it just didn't really work for me personally. I just never really got it, and I can't really explain why. Like, I don't have a good explanation as to why I didn't, like, think it was a special. I didn't think it was bad. I enjoyed it for what it was. I just didn't think it was anything special, personally. And I think that's why it's where it is. That's why I'm putting it where it is. It's just kind of middle of the road, like Squeak Squad, really. But it's not a bad game, and I say that if you're going to play a Kirby game, it's definitely worth playing. It's just I don't rank it that high, personally. So, yeah. And as you can see, I've got all of these games down here, which I've never played because, well... The reason why I've never played this is because it never came out over here, and yeah, like, it was only released in North America, so I never played it. Epic Yarn, I did want to give it a try when Extra Epic Yarn came out, because I never really played it on the Wii, like, and I was like, and I kind of missed out on it. Extra Epic Yarn, like, I was like, at one point, let's give it a go, but I never got around to it. Like, I never, like, picked it up and never played it. Maybe they're good games. Maybe Epic Yarn is a really good game, but I've just never tried it. But yeah, these games aren't made by HAL, by the way. There was another developer that was involved in those. Obviously, Superstar and Superstar Ultra are down there because I've ranked the individual games in them. I don't know what the fuck that is. If you know what the fuck that is, leave a comment and tell me. Robobot looked interesting. Obviously, because I never finished Triple Deluxe, I just never bothered picking Robobot, because I'm like, well, I've never finished this, so I'm not going to buy another Kirby game, and I've still got a Kirby game that I need to finish, you know what I mean? And Forgotten Land, well, as I say, it's the first fully 3D Kirby game, and I've seen it, and that's all I can say. I mean, it's post-apocalyptic. I would have preferred to have a more vibrant location. I guess it's still vibrant even though it's post-apocalyptic, but I don't know, like, I've never played it, but it seems interesting, I'll say that. But yeah, like, there's also Return to Dreamland Deluxe, so they re-released it as well, and Star Allies. That's apparently very mixed to Star Allies, I don't know why. And, like, people hate Rainbow Curse for some reason, I don't understand why. And then you got more Kirby Fighters games, which, by the way, Kirby Fighters originated in this game, and I have played a bit of it, and it's fun. It's basically Smash Brothers, but just the Kirby and Kirby's different abilities. It's a fun little mode, but then they made an entire game out of it, which is kind of interesting. But, yeah, like, the only reason why I haven't played most of these games, and I'll just tell you straight up, is because I hate Nintendo. Nintendo are bellends, because they have decided to put an online paywall on the Switch. And because of that, I just refuse to support them. I refuse to support a company that charges for online play. I do the same with Microsoft and Sony on like their systems. I won't buy the Xbox. I will like PlayStation 5. No, don't want to buy that. You know, and if I do buy that system, like because they have an exclusive that I want to play, then I'll get the X system second hand, so I don't give them my money. You know, but they don't really have anything out there. I'm not going to waste time buying a second-hand Switch because there aren't that many games to play aside from these Kirby games, I guess. Because really, a lot of Nintendo properties are shit now, and they've got rid of F-Zero, Star Fox has been ruined, like, Kirby's all that's left, you know? Kirby's literally the only franchise that Nintendo's got that's actually good now. And I haven't experienced it, so maybe it's shit now, I don't know, but maybe I assume that it's still good because it's HAL, and I've always loved HAL. I mean, yeah, sure, HAL have made a few mistakes like this, and Pokemon Ranger, which were just garbage, but, you know, like, they more than made up for it with other games, like, you know, obviously all the Kirby games and Hyper Zone, like, that's another great game that I really love, you know, and they made Pokemon Snap, which I'm a huge fan of as well. You know, and obviously they made Smash Brothers as well, so they are a great company. If you ask me, HAL are the backbone of Nintendo. Like, they are a huge deal, and they deserve a lot more credit than Nintendo gets. Fuck Nintendo. Nintendo can go suck dicks. Fucking HAL Laboratory, they're top lads. I really do like HAL Laboratory. Yes, they've made some blunders in the past with, as I said, Pokemon Ranger and Mass Attack, but everyone makes mistakes. And, you know, that's just how things are, but I have a lot of respect for the developers who work on these games and like the HAL Laboratory, because they clearly they're like Tri-Ace, you know. HAL Laboratory are like Tri-Ace. They make games and they put so much love into games. They love making games. They still know how to make game development about, like, make games about having fun, and they create a fun atmosphere around their games where you can clearly see that they are enjoying making the game and having fun with it, and it's not just like a crunch, like a crunch fest like all games are nowadays. I mean, I don't know the inner workings of HAL Laboratory, but their games tell me that this is a game made by people who love gaming and love game development and game design, and they have a passion for what they're doing. That's what this is, and that's what it screams to me. And Tri-Ace is the same, you know? So for that reason, I've always been a fan of Kirby. I mean, as I say, it's an easy franchise, and I like my easy platformers, so Kirby barely ever disappoints, and yeah, when it does, well, I put it here. But most Kirby games suck, because Kirby sucks! That's what he does! And that's a good thing. It should always be the case. Kirby should always suck. He should never not suck. If Kirby doesn't suck, there's a problem, you know? And that's why I mentioned the rankings here that I did. But anyways, that's it for my ranking of the Kirby games. I know that I may have disappointed a lot of people because I didn't rank all of these, and I do apologise to those people, but at the same time, you know, these games cost money. You've got to bear that in mind. I'm not getting paid for doing this, so, you know, I'm not going to go out and buy a copy of Kirby and the Forgotten Land just simply because you wanted me to rank it. I'm sorry, but I don't get paid enough to do that. I don't get paid anything. Yeah, like, so for that reason, I didn't rank them, and other reasons as well, like principles. But I just asked you to understand that, and, you know, I hope that you all enjoyed my ranking of the Kirby games. Like, I enjoyed making this list. I mean, that's why I wanted to, like, put it up for the vote, but you all voted for it, and I'm kind of glad you voted for this. Even though it was a bit of a clusterfuck of a ranking in retrospect, because I didn't rank them all, I still really enjoyed ranking all of these games and sharing my opinions with you guys, so I'm thankful that you all voted for that. I'm surprised that you all voted for this, because I actually expected everyone to go for Paper Mario, because I know a lot of people in my community love that game, but they all opted for Kirby instead, and I'm like, well, if you want Kirby, you get Kirby, you know? You only need to ask. But yes, I want to once again thank everyone for helping me achieve 500 subscribers. really appreciate every single one of you. I already made a video talking about that, but I will say once again, absolutely appreciate everyone who has tuned in to all of my content over the years and who have, you know, hit that subscribe button and put their trust in me. You know, I appreciate every single one of you, and like I said, that's the reason why I wanted to do this video, so that I could try and give back to you guys rather than just do a video just thanking you guys. I wanted to actually do something, and yeah, so thanks for everything, guys, and I'll see you next time.